I would like to, because I think the European market is a little bit different. So if anybody is interested to help me with that, and that we can grow together and make that help, so that Europe can challenges as we all face. How to create a beautiful team and keep it with you. How to I totally agree with Mr. Apollo Hotels. He had a beautiful. That you always should be willing to serve tea to everybody. However, there is one moment I'd need to serve the tea. I will leave it to you guys. Thank you.
Of a company called Ikiva. We largely do co-working spaces, managed offices, and this is a very exciting time for our industry, but like to say, are you future ready to solve the problem of your new customer who you don't know yet, and to get the right team to stay with you. So you take a lot of time, effort, pump in so much of hard work to get the right team, and then choose. The first time I told my father, hey, this is what I'm trying. Honestly, I thought he'd go ahead, try. If you don't try now, you're going to regret later in your years. Through and just be perseverant. But challenges are very similar. It's, I think, what every business goes through.
Immigration attorney from New York City. My journey is very similar to a lot of the lovely ladies, and did my LLM from UPenn. And yeah, so there are challenges faced as a woman entrepreneur, right? And I think it's important to identify those challenges, and podium is great. These kind of opportunities should not be let go. So when I finished my few women attorneys in the High Court, not respected at all. I was a woman. So a double whammy for me. Everyone looked at you strangely. No one respected you at all. And then went to the US, gave the bar exam there, did my LLM, etc., etc. So, again, challenging. Then I go to the judge, and the judge asked me, and I'm, well presented. And so those are the challenges we had to face as well. Now, of course, and then there were some things that I had to unlearn. Because there are some things that you don't do as a marketing person or a salesperson, right? So when you're a woman, doing marketing is difficult, especially if you have a big... And we're always taught as children to be humble, not to talk about yourself. About myself and to say, oh, I'm so and so, I've received these awards, even though I have, because it seemed vain, right? So I had intrinsic learning that I was always taught to be humble and not talk about yourself. So that was difficult when I first started out. And then going into a room where you don't know anyone, and maybe it's a room full of men and there are no women in the room. And the first few times I had to go up and just introduce myself to everyone, right? But it's hard to do that in the beginning when you're young, especially when you're a woman. So those are some of the challenges that you overcome with yourself over and over again. You will become that. So I think it's important. There are many things that we can overcome, and we have a better way of communicating with people. We're better at that. We're better at...
Like, what is changed now, right? Would you see things change while you are speaking about challenges?
I want to thank ISF for giving us this opportunity to share our experiences for the benefit of all the women entrepreneurs, and the source of inspiration for so many of us and all the startup founders. And thank you once again, Jay Garu, for giving us this opportunity and invite women, all these amazing women. I don't know what to say. But yes, coming back to our firm, things were so different. It's even I thought having a law degree wouldn't be difficult to go to a bank and get a loan. I was so naive, to design the bank manager, and I showed him my law degree. He said that that's not enough. You don't have credit history. Little graduated from law school, and then I decided to go into my own private practice. So it was very difficult securing loan and start off, secure client programs. If a young lawyer wants to go into, own practice, as Prasanthi was saying, in our generation, we would hesitate to go and introduce ourselves and exchange cards and then ask for what you're looking for, right? But these days, when I see young lawyers, they would call it their interests and where they want to be in 5 years from now, right? I think that's a big change. And when I first actually started off, I would actually underplay. I would never actually talk to a senior lawyer what I'm looking for, right? I want to be like you in 10 years. And that has changed. And also mentorship. It's happily exchanged, my experiences, and also mentor them if the time permits.
Great.
Thank you.
So what happens is these days, I see my interns who just joined, they take 2 weeks of leave to go to. But on this table, right, I know many of us, we are the first generation women to have a abroad.
2006 or 2007 through my job. And the first time I went there, so we were in a conference, it was a US. When you say I have a doubt, it means that you're doubting them. Right? You're supposed to say, I need it. So this was my first trip, first experience that I had. And of course, I'll never forget that.
Interesting things going on. I mean, I was practicing in India. Then I had an opportunity. I applied to different universities, poor thing. But I got into Columbia, Cornell, UPenn, and I chose Columbia to go to. But then my son became, the entire family supported. I left Harsha here in India with my family, then went to the US to study because my father-in-law said, there was no cell phones, there were no telephone communication, no WhatsApp, nothing. So I ended up, and we were not talking to family then, it was very different times we lived in that time. But, culturally it was very different. So quite a few of those issues. And we were calling our seniors sir and ma'am. And that.
No, there are many, many differences, cultural differences, but that's what I like, and that's what keeps me running, and that's why I choose this path.
Right? How do you run it? Who is helping you? Are any tips there?
Yeah, well, I have tips in general. Do ask and do surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. Respect, that is not the difficult part. I have thousands in my dreams. But friends, in this world, and do impactful things that I hope I can do now in this second part of my life, then you have to fail. And
for example, I'm at corporate, right? Many of them are in corporates and they want to start business. So it's very important that because wants to start their business.
Yes, we should, yes. So there have been a lot of tips being given throughout the last 3 days. Issue is that we tend to view ourselves as being less than what we are, right? In addition to that, I guess, having the right processes in place, and we take care of our businesses as well. So we're doing 3 jobs in place of 1. So I think it's important then to have a process in place.
One very important thing, and something that Sundari said, support system. It's extremely good to have a support system. And that started this journey 12 years ago. I had a network of all these women who I could rely on. Tap into a network. If you know someone who's done it, rely on them, reach out. Founding companies here, CEOs, head of partnership, reach out, tap into that network. There's so many out there. And that's just one part of comfort that we sometimes need to reach out, especially if we are juggling our lives with our family and the life which is in us.
We all have Jay as our mentor.
Yes, for young women entrepreneurs, I would dating. Just go up. People like confidence. Another day, an engineering student came up to me and said, "You're here," and I saw her in action, and also get mentorship. Mentorship is a great to people that you look up to, and if they have time, they would, of course, help you. You never know. There's no harm in trying, right? Don't be shy. Also, don't compare yourself with people who've done very well in life. because everybody has to start somewhere on that.
Of course, I agree with all the. Just to add to that, I would say, first and foremost, believe in yourself. I think that is what is very, very important. It's okay. Back yourself up. Inspire yourself. Again, I believe that. Inspire. You will figure out. Only when you jump into the well, you'll figure out. It's a survival down. Feel that. Okay, I failed. What could have I done better? Right? Maybe I didn't give my 100%. I think 2.5 years ago, if you had asked me, I had never even stepped into the land of Hyderabad. Now you see, I'm coming back to succeed. So trust yourself. Don't think that everybody else have got just because you don't trust yourself. Because that chance you have got, which don't get demotivated by anything. What is to you and how much ever work you.
Entrepreneurs and women entrepreneurs in particular, what I find the biggest challenge capital, access to resources, and then the ability to network, like how it was dealt with, because you're not in the corporate world, you're not taking smoking breaks, or you're not. Basically, there are very few. You're not playing golf. You don't have the avenues. Are they really giving the hearing? Maybe there is something that, in terms of diverse, to look at more women-owned entrepreneurs and see how we can support them. Not just in the impact funding. It may be just pure profitability, but that is something I think across the board. Since there are so many investors sitting here,
and fail, you at least learn how not to do a particular thing. So believe in yourself and keep learning. Never stop learning.
Because there were only two questions I would always ask. Do I really want to work for myself, or do I want to work for somebody? The all-find area, it comes with so many challenges, and those you need to do all of those things. Those that were very comfortably provided by, let's say, your employer before, you now have to create them by yourself. So I would say, if you want to plunge into entrepreneurship, the first thing is figure out it is going to be tough. So first evaluate yourself, and then figure out, after the evaluation, this is what I want to do, then get into it. That's the only tip I would give. The answer for that, for me personally, came back as
to 100% that I want to be an entrepreneur, but it was one day at a time. It was this dream that I wanted to create some good fat paycheck somewhere, rather than to think, how do I get the company to survive and pay salaries. Action from day one, you've already made it. Honestly, I didn't have. It was one day at a time, and now 12 years. It's just.
If you don't know if you want to be an entrepreneur, the other question that I would say you ask is, do you want to work? Then what are you going to do?
Life's tough out there.
Change the boss. Get my mobile. So I want to make sure that I'm engaging my audience a little bit. So any questions for this? I think she needs mic. Can you please pass on the mic?
Seeing a lot of women on the...
Can you be a little louder, please? Yeah, it is.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Firstly, it's lovely seeing
That in the household, roles are flexible, right? That's saying with society, in order for women to come into the workforce, right? Intrinsically, yes, have a group of women around you who will help you, whether it be family, whether it be, your people at work.
So working smart is the way to go. And also, these days, a lot of men at home are rules. Now, even employers are changing. They're very accommodating and to keep the talent. So don't be afraid. Because, the hours and all. Thank you.
I think because he knew that is what is important. I think if we give that clarity.
I did not see any time a clear work-life balance. I think it's a period. I'm going to come back to other questions, but I do have one question from my end. Women do not support us. This is what we hear. So I want to hear from them. How true?
It's just a myth.
I
love that.
I agree.
that may have been true, women don't support women, don't work with other women partners, because our own health, right? That seems to be getting completely in the office. Many of them are developing health issues because they're not able to take care of themselves. So in addition to taking care of family...
Who wants to ask question?
मेरे से ऐसे ही बात करना, मेरे से बात करना.
No matter. Yeah.
Not a passive wing. It has to be very active ISF women wing. They are either through Zoom calls and whatever mechanism.
Yes, of course. I think compared to last year, we see more women this time who have joined in as volunteers.
So women wing is more successful than the male wing.
No,
so it has to be both.
We will certainly work with responsibility to have Toronto ISF wing, and we will have an event. Maybe
Also respect.
No, I'm telling you, the way Sridevi Reddy was after me, I suggest Rashmi was with ISF, particularly from Washington, will be part of your wing.
Sure.
Thanks.
I was too loud.
So I know there is somebody is continuously hinting offline. Thank you so much for traveling, for coming here and making this session again as a core team, right? I'll say again.
Yes, sir. We humbly request you to come on the dais and James Brown, who is to sing a song, It's a Man's World. And women are rocking in every arena and creating the space for themselves. And hereafter, all the women sitting over here, start dreaming, start engaging. The ladies who march with brains, by breaking the taboos, by breaking the ceilings. All of you all, thank you very much. If a woman is empowered in the family, the community develops. If the community develops, the empowerment on today's date. And thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen. Please remain seated. You saying that make us grow in our life and create a space and challenging ourselves. So we all are with you, and thank you so much for your blessings once again. Yes, most.
All right, moving on. Are we ready for the next ISF talk? All right, up next we have Dr. Anand Agarwal, HOD CTV, on the stage, and ignite us with your ISF talk.
Heart attacks in the young people is reaching an epidemic.
Can you restart,
nowadays.
please?
Since my return from UK in 2009, I need artery to do my bypass grafting, and I have to do what we call as endarterectomy. Many of these people are having sudden heart attack and sudden cardiac death, that young while walking. What are the reasons for onset of heart disease in the young adults? It is early onset of diabetes, early onset of, and soothes the body. It is produced between 10 p.m. and remedy. But mind you friends, if you do not sleep well, your body is not getting to take to your mouth. Whatever you are taking through your panchendriyas is ahar. So regulated eating patterns, get up, yoga, pranayam, spending time with nature, and regular exercise. Young people is people who have got a family history of heart disease. What does it mean? Any parents or first siblings who have had a heart attack at a young age, so those people of heart disease in the cab driver, even noise pollution and excessive intake of alcohol are also caused. Even our children, because the atherosclerotic process which leads to blockages in coronary artery disease starts at T. Take prompt attention. Do not self-diagnose yourself. Visit a nearest cardiac center. Get the relevant test advised by the cardiologist, and artery disease leading to a sudden heart attack in the young and sudden cardiac death. So this is my sincere request to the family, because once you get angioplasty or cardiac surgery at a young age, mentally a person is crippled. We bring a culture of the health of their employees, especially the cardiac health, and do regular screening, a stronger, healthier and a prosperous nation. Me See, this is a testimony, more than half of the hall. So I've been given just 10 to 15 minutes time. It takes an hour or so. So whoever are in the hall, I kindly request, don't take photos, nothing. You people, I think my coming here will be successful. So guys, a disease of the elderly. How many people in this hall are and how many are more than 50? Sir. So let me tell you categorically, and please, my request, this is all group of people who are above 60. Sir, more or less you are cured against heart disease, because even if something happens, it will not be drastic. What I am observing is, they do not even give you time to reach to hospital. And when they reach to even do anything. Can I have the next slide, please? Next slide. So, what our 16 when my own friend died in sleep. So my idea is to educate people. So this was a study done in a reputed hospital in Bangalore, where they were seeing either requiring angioplasty or surgery. And we are looking at traditional risks who were admitted to this hospital, did not fit into the classical cab drivers, patients who are commuting. So these are all subtle risk factors. Attention, I don't have any other risk factors. You think you are immune against coronary artery disease. That is not the fact. Next slide. It beats 1.2 lakhs times a day into the womb, into the fetus, because that's what, it is a pump which sends the blood to all the parts. Time a minute, relentlessly, without anything. So don't we think we need to, give. What is the guideline given? I give a small example. Own manufacturing user instructions. I can't throw it, I can't put it in fire, I cannot put it in water, no? What is the instructions for our human body? I say, our scriptures have given you how to conduct yourself, guard your health. I'll tell you a simple thing, this topic was well advertised, half of the hall is empty. People are not bothered, sir. It's healthy, isn't it? And let me tell you at the outset, we are all systematically abused. I'm giving you a little education for your cardiovascular health in next 2 to 3 minutes. The left artery divides into 2 branches and the right is the right main coronary artery. So what we call or more of these arteries, mostly it's a single coronary artery which gets completely occluded, and you get it. You see in the artery on the left side is a clean, pristine artery when we are born. And this atherosclerotic process, let children will understand, up to that time it is the duty of the parents and teachers to at least regulate. If it is partially blocked, you get chest pain or angina, and if it suddenly gets of blood to a heart, it fibrillates. And if you do surgery, 1 in 100 patients will fibrillate in front of us, because we are witnessing the rest. We immediately, I'm telling you, it's high time we wake up. So many gymnasts, so many people, so many VIPs to tell, but the majority of the patient, 50% I would say, in the IT sector, I started making videos way back in 2016. My own cousin who was doing perpetual night shift, 10 p.m. and 12 midnight is very, very important. And just tell me, A small question, how many of you recognize risk factors? Nowadays, both husband, wife working, young stress in the mind when there is no peace at home. So nuclear family with no support is also one of the, all these factors are leading up to the stress. Next slide, please. So if you look at the, incidents of heart disease, let me tell you, any chest pain which is above diaphragm, or you might feel shortness of breath or some irregular heartbeat, it could be because of a heart attack. So in that case, do not sell. ECG will at least show whether the patient is having a heart attack or not. Normal ECG cannot guarantee that. You do not say it is lifestyle regulation. Next slide, please. We have made our website www.savetheyoungheart.com. Goes in through our mouth is the most important, because what goes through your mouth becomes a part of your body. Body says, and eat according to what you're this thing. But very simple dictum, try to eat before the sun sets. An expert, I don't propose to educate on any of these things, but it's there on our website. All of you know what to heart attacks from occurring. But whenever somebody gets a heart attack, the treatment modalities are either angioplasty or by, next slide, my colleagues too. But our idea is not to reach to this stage. It has to be prevented well in advance. Okay, people that heart disease happen at young age, you need to become up. So what is next? Give me a place here to talk. In all your companies, first of all, to become cognizant yourself that I am at a risk, I need to let diabetes, hypertension, your lifestyle questions, and it gives you a predictive rate of. So you need to screen people. Next slide, please. Evidence-based screening is most important. Next. This is what we have on the website. Young people are also getting heart disease, and when it gets in young people, it is more severe. So we have to start early to come to me. Thank you very much. If any questions, I will take. Time permitting, I can take few questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Agarwal. May I now request Balaji Reddy Garu to please come up on the stage.
I have a question. Thank you very much for a beautiful wake-up session. Point out that the discipline of living a life in a balance in life. In fact, I am reminded of my 6th standard, 70s.
So your voice is a bit low, so can you just...
I am trying to, I think that mens sana in corpore sano, which you as a doctor will also realize is from Latin of a good body and a good mind. I just wanted to check with you, does a small pain in the arm also indicate a possible indication?
No, sir, the cardiac pain is basically a pain which should... Classic need not be any pain in the arm, with or without can be cardiac. So if it is happening regularly, it can be muscular pain. Most of the time it is, but it is always.
Thank you so much, sir. The team to please get the memento. So maybe both of you, if you can go to the center of the stage, please.
Don't you think this was a very good, because of the stress levels, he had a mild attack. And most of my friends who were at the age of 27 dropped down with the heart attack. So given a gift from the God, and let's take care of it. And let's love ourselves. Thank you so much.
I think one of the important points that Dr. Agarwal said was for people less than 40. Let me see how many of you are less than 40 here. I agree. Sorry?
is an integral part of our daily, from the mobile phone to the World Wide Web. All have direct demeanor of the marvels Staff College of India. ESCI is the brainchild of the Institution of Engineers, the premier body of professional engineers. Campus main building was inaugurated on the 27th of August 1990 by His Excellency Shri R. Venkataraman, the then President of India. ESCI is an ISO 9001 certified institute. Recognized by All India Council for Technical Education. India, driving force at every national economy worldwide, but like any other science, aptly trained, qualified, need-based continuing education, research, development, and trained managers, and provide consultancy services to industry and government agencies for the engineering. In fact, ESCI is a bridge between academic institutions, R&D laboratories,
Could you pause the video
government
for a while?
agencies.
Thank you. Up next for the final ISF, I was told the most awaited speaker for the evening today, we have Dr. Krishnamurthy. We would request you to please come up on the stage and please deliver the ISF talk for the audience here.
How I brought KV to ISF event. When I was in US, KK? In fact, everybody should give me was a professor at Indian School of Business. But afterwards, he became a very big man. Became Prime Minister's chief economic advisor. He was a very busy person at that point of time. Though he used to come to Hyderabad during the budget time, but very, very difficult to meet him. Though he was supposed to come and speak on the first day, he had so many programs in the Prime Minister's office, and I don't know, we're all give a lot of support to our ISF activities globally, because he's connected globally. Not that IMF is going to be accepting our invitation. Thank you.
Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks, KK, for putting us together. It's indeed my privilege to be here. If India at 100 has to become a developed nation, then startups have to play a very, very critical role. I'll give you a little bit of background for. I'm going to be speaking based on my recently released book, India at 100. You can go and find it on Amazon. Envisioning tomorrow's economic powerhouse. I'll give you the bottom line. The bottom line may seem audacious, but hopefully what I see this as the size of the Indian economy in 2047. I expect the Indian economy to be a Now, that may seem audacious, and some of you may be wondering, whatever he had in the morning, whatever he smoked, I want a piece of that. It seems to be some stuff. Let me, hopefully by the end of the talk, tell you that I'm absolutely sane. I've been very sane even while writing the book, and I've reflected conceptual thinking and empirical evidence, data. I've actually come to this conclusion. So I'll explain to you why I think India can be a $55 trillion economy. Government in 2021, the India at 75 activities were going on. And naturally at that time, my thoughts went to how the economy will look when India turns. Motivation was what I observed, inside out about a lot of the commentary on India, being part of government, being a part of the government. So I don't know how many of you Chief Economic Advisor in late 2018, into 2018, and released that I had to go and deal with. India's GDP growth had declined to 5.3%. Of course, we all know that a lot of negative commentary on the Indian economy. For instance, there were people saying that there is something structurally wrong with the Indian economy. To these growth episodes. And when COVID struck, then at that time in particular, I had the privilege of being able to there was a good amount of judgment, of course, but there was a good with which one made that prediction, because I felt that at that point in time it is important to actually display economic leadership. That's what at that critical time, once in a century pandemic, that was what was required. But in this process, seeing very august offices, in the country, I got the feeling that it is important commentators tend to actually enjoy encouraging. And outcomes to manifest negative thinking is sufficient, but for positive outcomes, negative, because there is a lot of positivity. There are lots of positives about the Indian economy, and that's what in real terms. Then the Indian economy can indeed become a $55 trillion economy. What are the other elements of that $55 trillion economy prediction? It is important to seek inspiration from other examples. Let me give you the example of Japan. Japan from 1970 to 1995. This is a 25-year period. Actually 25.6. And in 1970, the Japanese economy, the GDP was in 1970. By 1995, 25 years later, the Japanese economy had reached 5.5. You can say, we can't compare with China because we are a democracy, China is not. And that's why I've given you the example of Japan, which was that growth for Japan happened during a honeymoon period for the global economy. The reality is it was not a honeymoon period at all. The US has never faced that kind of inflation since then. And where all these tailwinds, where all these headwinds were things that the Japanese act to 5.5 trillion, growing their GDP 26 times. What I am estimating is that we in India, especially as a country and as an individual itself, there are only two words that we need to keep saying. Let me give you the example as well. From 1996 to 2021, the Chinese GDP grew 22 times in dollar terms. Now, of course, you'll say China is different, but I've already given you the example of a democratic nation, Japan, because I've gotten the carte blanche from Chaudhry Garu saying, you take the time that you want. China can also grow, its GDP over 20 times. Why cannot we do that? We can as well. What is most important is why I think actually this is something that is possible. So firstly, if you look at the 1991 onwards, so from 7% on average to 8% on average is a stretch goal. But it is not, so many problems. We have a very slow judiciary. We have a bureaucracy that actually can improve slow, much higher during this 30-year period. Of course, it has declined. Abject poverty was also there. Challenges, and yet we've grown. So 8% is a I'll spend some time on what will be the key drivers for this later, but let me just focus on the numbers. So target inflation at 4%, as to deliver inflation at 4%. If you check the data from 2016 onwards, the average inflation has been 5%. So it's a very reasonable expectation too. So 5% is at the higher end of that range. So nominal growth terms, 8 plus 5, 13%. Now, in order to estimate growth that will happen in dollar terms, I have to also tell you what is the likely rate of of the rupee vis-a-vis the dollar that will prevail, going forward. And here I'll first estimation is that from here on the rate of depreciation of the rupee would be less than 1% per annum. So it will depreciate by about maybe 50 in nominal rupee terms, 8% plus 5%. Because depreciation reduces the value in dollar terms. So when you convert from rupee to dollar, actually depreciation reduces the value of about 1%. Now, let's use the rule of 72. This is something that all of us economists and people who actually work in markets as well use to know our money, because the rate of interest that was paid on that was 12%. So that's because 12 times 6 is 72, or 72, 24-year period from 2023 to 2047. If GDP doubles, 4 doublings, right? 4 doublings, because 24 divided by 6 is 4. In other words, 2 into 2 into 2 into 2 to the approximated to 3.25. So the first doubling is 3.25 to 6.5. (13 to 26). Fourth doubling is 26 to close to that 55 trillion. I've not done an Excel calculation, I've just done a mental calculation with all of you, and we are close to that 55 trillion number. So the most important data in the past, rupee has depreciated by about 3.5% per annum. 3 to 3.5% per annum. Reason for that, if you look at the inflation that has prevailed in India from 1991 till 2000, but since then, from 2016 onwards, inflation has reduced to 5%. Now, one of the aspects of, when you think about international economics or, currency depreciation, it is that the currency faces higher inflation. So, what does inflation mean? Today, what you can buy using 100 rupees, what you can buy using same inflation is 5%. Similarly, if you take, let's say, the US inflation has been about 2%. So, in the US, $100 this year will be, the rupee was eroding much faster than that of the dollar than when it is when inflation is 5%. So as a result, purchasing power of the rupee vis-a-vis the dollar unchanged, then the rupee has to depreciate more in order for, basically 98 will translate 1 for 1 into a lower rate of depreciation. That's why instead of 3 explains actually, so let me once again summarize quickly. 8% real growth, 5% inflation, 8 plus 5, 13. So actually, what are the key drivers for this 8% growth? I'll not elaborate too much, but let me just leave. If you step out of, of the engineering staff college here, you go out, you'll actually, store. You'll find people who are selling maybe on a thela kind of, they're all informal establishments. When these establishments become more formal, their productivity increases. How productive is that investment? And when informal sector firms become formalized, when they become more formal, their productivity increases. Signaling at least, when he constructs a shop, he maybe has two people. The food that will be made actually will not get as much dust, etc. To basically cook, he can actually sell more as well. So together he can sell more and charge a higher price of greater reward. So productivity increases. So this is something that economists, nobody quibbles about, which is the fact that productivity, and they will catch up, and they have been catching up over the last 3 decades, and especially over the last innovation index. In 2015, India was ranked 85. This is data put out by this is a global innovation index. Actually, they put it out across all countries. So this is not, nobody can disuse these statistics, using World Bank data. If you use World Bank data to look at new firm creation, from 2004 to 2014 onwards till 2023, new firm creation, the growth rate is 220%. 20%. Particularly startups, this is so relevant for this conference. Combination of innovation, combination driver. Final, most important driver in my opinion, which is credit creation in the economy. Now, when I came to class 11, my father bought me a moped. So, to school I used to 15 minutes. So I was saving time. My father didn't take a loan, but if he had taken a loan, for instance, that has could use it to study better. I was becoming more productive. This is true in general when firms become more productive. And here the runway for India is significant, because if you look at credit creation in the it is there as a percentage of GDP. If you take the rest of the world, for every 100 units of GDP, about there is. Large sections of our population still remain unbanked. They don't get loans. They have. There's another aspect that is, very critical for the startup ecosystem. So, from being able to grow from, with the current 58% levels to close to 150. Specific example to illustrate what kind of power there is from credit creation. Take India and South Korea. 60, the credit creation percentage of GDP was 6% in South Korea, 8% in India. In other words, India was ahead of. Fast forward 60 years, in 2020, India's credit creation 8%, South Korea's is 180%, 178%. And that is why they actually have, today, when we buy phones, we are buying Samsung phones instead of them, buying possibly our Jio phones. When we buy a car, maybe that's why we are buying, they could have been the reverse, where we might have been exporting to them rather than importing from them. That shows the power of credit creation in the economy. Together, these three drivers itself, in the book, of course, I've covered many other aspects, the $55 trillion economy. To summarize, I'll leave you with this anecdote, give you an example from cricket. In 1993, when Sachin on his performance of 4 years, Sunil Gavaskar said that if he does not score at least 40 international hundreds and at least 15,000. But by looking at the potential, by looking at the performance of the Indian economy as well, to be the Sachin Tendulkar of the global economy in 2047. That's the second lesson from this example. Jan the 50,000, close to 30,000 international runs. He had to work. When he encountered challenges, he had to find innovative solutions. India will have to do that as well. Actually pay a lot of attention, ask a lot of questions to our finance minister, to the reforms you've done for startups. What are the reforms you've done for enabling manufacturing? What are the reforms you've done for ease of doing business? What are the reforms you've done for, to do these things? So the hard work that Sachin Tendulkar did, today that hard work has to be doing your part of the work as well as citizens. Thank you very much.
Issues which may prop up in India, the way today what I have seen my leader, irrespective of the party, they're all going for freebies job market. Because today economy, if Hyderabad, if I see, in 89 started buying cars and all that happened. Today, we have seen that in all the IT metropolitan cities. War between X country, Y country, maybe China or India, any geopolitical, that kind of a situation, coming up to this kind of a number.
Thank you very much, Chaudhary Garu. I think that's a very good question. I, in fact, have. So in the really... I'm really enthused. 10% growth, which is what has been in the past, and 6% growth. If India $50 trillion economy, and if we grow at about 6%, we'll $50 trillion. So even if let's say if you want me to give you, we'll still be about a $20 trillion economy. So I think the question is, we should be, whenever we think about a long period like 25 years, obviously there will be challenges that will come about. Sometimes I think when we do a balanced assessment, it is important for us to actually keep in mind both potential. Some of the headwinds I can actually clearly anticipate, and I've written about it in the book as well. Deglobalization, employment. Actually, I've covered this in great detail, and it's important to understand that research by Darren Achimoglu and David Otter from First piece of data they point out in their paper is they look at the US Census Bureau, what are the professions that were there in 1960, professions that were there in 1960. Only one profession is actually in 2020. You know, guess what? Can anybody guess which is that profession that is not there in 2020 that was there in 1960 in elevator operators? Elevator operators is that only profession that actually has completely dropped out. It basically has changed now into, you know, sort of keying into computers, etc. Transformation. But only one profession has dropped. And David Otter suggests is that the fear about the impact of technological change, the ATM, you know, teller machines, right? If you look at, and actually it's important to keep in mind that activity of, you know, ATM, a physical teller versus basically ATM machines, you know, there is a substitution. But if you look at the entire supply chain, which is producing the ATM machine, you know, a number of security guards that are there, all that when you take into account, you know, none of which earlier when physical tellers were doing that, then you don't see necessarily, you know, that there is a substitution with or labor substituted by capital. When you look at it in the broad, you know, so in other words, when AI comes in, yes, maybe there will be a change to. I'm sure you will, you know, you will relate with this, Chaudhary sir, that if you remember in 1950s there was a labor versus capital, you know, struggle, because that plot is and take out the, you know, the horse cart. Classic, you know, capital replacing labor. And this very much there. Today also it's there. Every time technological change brings this up. But I think it's important, therefore, to have this longer perspective.
Please. Our AV team has become overactive now with the numbers. Thank you so much. We finally got to know mathematicians.
Thank you so much, sir. It's an honor to hear you. Sir, one conversation that I attended in ISB changed the course of my life. I was into I pivoted from social impact space. I studied startup ecosystem for 2 years and then started Nandi Ventures to invest in early stage startups. Till date, we are seeing technologies from the developed world and re-engineering that. What we should do on that, sir. Thank you so much.
Very good question. So let me first acknowledge that incidentally, I must mention my BTech dissertation was a much better version of neural networks. But so I'll say something. I mean, I think one of the areas where AI can actually, India can be really very, very innovative is we've created bank accounts for about 550 million, you know, bank accounts. You know, accounts as double the population of your, you know, of your country. You know, anecdote that I provide that if you take the number of digital transactions that are done in India, you know, if you put it on a balance, on one side you put number of digital transactions that happen in India will tilt more. Fact. And that is as, you know, Google Pay de dijiye. So, you know, that illustrated. This is where I think the use of AI, you know, one of the chapters that I've written is actually, and this is also relates to the earlier, you know, when we think about freebies versus were created, there were many economists that basically said this is just a freebie, you know, but what it has done is actually it has created for themselves. And why is this important? For instance, I'll give you this example, you know. And this was, in fact, 100 million people are being given free food. Okay. Now, many people will say this is a freebie that, you know, are giving, you know, help me understand this, which is what has happened is if you see in the last 10 years, poverty has declined from about 12.2. And this is something he said, that it is important for us to actually, you know, handhold them for some more time so that they do not go back in safety net. And I think taking care of their most important, which is food, requires actually one way of providing that safety net. And I think that is something that really enhances capacity. I'll add one more, and when he, you know, something that I learned by, you know, Nobel laureate Gary Becker at the University of Chicago taught this to us. One of the things he said is, you know, poverty itself actually changes your mindset. And I think that's a very important point when you are the long term. But when you get over and when you actually have that insecurity, that I might still fall back into poverty, that that mindset remains. So it is important. One is they can think for the future. It's not as if the poor are any less smarter than us. It is just that because their mindset is different. So when we bring them out of poverty like this and in a sustained manner, their mindset can change. They can. So in a sense, therefore, bottom line, what I want to say is we want to use AI in a way. For social, what we need is actually, we need compassionate capitalism, we need dharmic capitalism in this country, not the rapacious capitalism of the West.
My question to you, Subbu, is what sector? Manufacturing.
2-3 years, so 5 trillion. Our next target should be 10 trillion and beyond, 55 trillion to 2047. So I think the undermines the welfare of the small farmer. I'll give you 2 examples. If you take any other producer in this country, it can be a producer of this suit, it can be a producer of this mic, could be his or her produce to actually whomever he or she wants to go and sell. To go and sell in the local mandi only. And as a result, what happens, I've actually seen this, I've visited and seen a small farmer, indeed, what does he do? He says he will make this small farmer wait. He's actually hired a tractor tailor, he's lost 1 day of work to be able to come and sell this. By 3-4 o'clock, he's desperate to actually say, among small farmers, if 100 rupees of value added happens, in that 100 rupees, more than 90. So for all the rhetoric of farmer being Annadata, are we really respecting the Annadata by giving him 10? The act is modified. Simple thing, and all this corporatization, etc. is complete. How people who basically go and sell, let's say flowers, those who go and sell, are they suffering from manufacturer or the manufacturer of idlis or those? None of them, right? So why the fear of that same small farmer? If he has the freedom to go and sell anybody, same thing, he comes at 8 o'clock, he comes to the APMC Mandi at 8. That threat is very credible. Now that small farmer does not have that threat. Chalo main khareedta hu, I'll buy, and he'll pay him a much better price. So of the 100 rupees value added, he will get at least 50 rupees. Supply is seasonal, demand is all through the year. Rice crop, for instance, Rabi season, but we actually consume rice and wheat all through the year. When you have demand that is all through the year, even character would actually been shown as a retailer who's storing some grains, actually is shown as hoarding. That is what we've done, and that is why there has been no investment in storage infrastructure in India. You look at in the United States, you have so much use. He has to go and sell his produce, and during when the season actually crop is coming, there is huge supply. Obviously, price is low, so he doesn't get. It's not even economics. And yet, we basically, for all the rhetoric of a farmer as Annadata, etc., we are notably important, another sector. But for that, actually, the biggest onus is on states to reform, and this is something that we all of us, we as consumers will also benefit from.
Hello, thank you very much. I would just like to add one point here to let Prime Minister Modi on the same day, and right after that he had a meeting with the Pakistan delegation, few hours to come here and deliver the keynote. Thank you very much, Professor KV.
It is indeed an honor. You are not only a good speaker, but I am sure everybody's 2024 to honor you with a Lifetime Achievement Award. Can we have the AV, please?
Driving force behind the transformation of India's financial sector, particularly reforms that modernized India's banking and digital payment systems, setting the stage for a fintech revolution. Strategically, with with cutting-edge technology. With academic credentials from IIT Kanpur, IIM Calcutta, and the University of Chicago, Subramanian brought deep expertise to and the Reserve Bank of India has strengthened corporate governance and financial stability, while currently as India's Executive Director at the IMF, he remains at the forefront of innovation.
Dr. Krishnamurthy V. Subramanian, Executive Director, IMF, earlier Chief Economic Advisor to the Government of India. We are honored to present you with a exceptional and outstanding contributions you have made to the financial and to the fintech sectors. Thank you so much, sir.
Hello. Just Mr. Dinanath, Seshadri, Satyendra, hello, Banu, Achyut, hello, Bipin to come on to the stage.
Luckily, at the end, you have touched that part also. But my question is, the major employer, the largest employer in the country, provided Indian agriculture is properly taken care of, like Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao took care of the entire Hindu and unshackle this great elephant called agriculture, largest employer, who can create greatest employment, the largest second economy in the world, provided agriculture is second. There are so many marketing. Correct. He cannot decide the price even before product producing. He is put to unbearable problems. His vote is required by the nation where shortage is killing the farming agriculture. Whatever medicines, agriculture, by himself can rise. Like Indian economy has come up. When Narasimha Rao thought that if just you don't create hurdle for the Indian industries for the country, instead of Prime Minister and all, and that person of the country. Thank you.
So here, as I said before, I think we have to position that was, and it was actually portrayed as the center trying to actually get into the, we have to be actually, practical here and recognize as well. We cannot, just because, see, the thing is, somebody who does good work, agriculture is a state subject. Why should not we be expecting the state chief minister, state subject? So if the farmer, the small farmer is really the I think it is, in my opinion, it is fair to ask, because, and we, keep all the onus, put all the onus on only him, and cut slack for those who, in my opinion, I absolutely have, because I'm telling you, actually, when I was with the government, tried the farm bill and we saw the entire opposition. It is something after that now. Now the responsibility has to be squarely put on the states. It is a state subject, and state chief ministers have to
offline discussion.
No,
Nayana Garu, we don't have time. We'll have offline discussion. I really want to thank you for coming all the way to talk to our ISF startups and the ecosystem. Thank you. So that this network can be passed on to the young entrepreneurs, and they will create the economy. They will, whatever the discussions, you will be better, farmers also will be better. What way you can help us on that?
Sure. Thoughts that the startup ecosystem, I think, is by far the most important. As I was mentioning earlier, problems. That is the most, because the kind of enterprise, the kind of, that cannot be ever matched by the government. In fact, because the business too many businesses, but let me say it again. The business of doing business is with business. It's barometer of the vitality of an economy, because entrepreneurial firms challenge incumbents and thereby actually push incumbents to also become more innovative. And with all of you, try to solve India's problems. Actually, try, make money, and an entrepreneur provides yeoman service to the country. Why? Because they actually provide jobs. I will tell you, as a policy maker, if you wake me up at 3 o'clock in the night and say, hey, you policy maker, what is it that keeps you awake at night for India? I will say jobs, jobs, and jobs. Keep thinking about, if civilizations actually have always come around places shortage of water, but it is not because there's actually any overall shortage. There are, if you take out, you have to actually access, and these can be areas where, startups can be working on. Are there this is a problem. If I were an entrepreneur, I would start thinking about water itself. Can we actually create some solutions that maybe reduces the influence of the water tanker mafia? These are aspects that actually, in startups can work. Can you reduce the traffic, for instance? Is there a way, today, for instance, to go from Gachibowli and the distance is only 22 kilometers. 22 kilometers is 15 miles. 15 miles, actually, state governments have to do it too. But these are the kind of, think about India's problems, make your, become prosperous by solving India's problems. You would have done such national service. We were, Chaudhary Garu and we were talking, there is a saying in Hindi, neki, forget about it. That should be the spirit. Do good. And I'm telling you eventually as well, I don't work for anybody else. I only work for the divine. He gives me all my promotion. I have absolutely no hesitation in saying it. If you create startups that solve India, and that boss that is up there actually will be really, really very pleased. And when Chitragupta writes your account, that's
not KV. Thank you so much. Yeah. KK, please come on to the dais. You are responsible for bringing him to ISF. Please.
All that you have witnessed in the last 3 days, all that you have experienced in the result of the tremendous hard work, smart work, and work that has been put together. By a pre-planning phase for this event, we went around across the world to different. And then we had the pre-event work that was done by the team. All of this is the result of many people working together. I request all of you to get back in. We are moving to the final section of the event. Request all the volunteers to please stay back. क्या रिमूव करेगा पापा मैं माइक पर
रुको